Well, we are going through very difficult times, and after the 17th century, every almost 100 years, a pandemic has created havoc among the world. And now we have the misfortune to be in the midst of another pandemic. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom and it was the age of foolishness. It was a season of darkness and it was a spring of hope. But now it is definitely a winter of despair. This is what Charles Dickens in the 18th century had said, and it fits very well to the situation that we are passing through now. So today we have to refresh our idea about viral pneumonias in children that we have been getting since the last 6, 7 months, and maybe some of them were giving an indication that something sinister is going to happen. So first, let us start with the case discussion. Mind you, this is a very famous case, and many years from now, when the PhDs will be studying about pneumonias, viral pneumonias, this case would be the lead case. So we'll come to it later on. So at the beginning, this was a 3-month-old baby, weight was 6.5 kgs. On 2nd of February to 5th of February, this baby presented with rhinorrhea and nasal congestion. Mind you, there was no history of hiccup, there was no history of fever, there was no vomiting, the chest did not have any wheezing sounds, breastfed baby, but during this period, it was a bit fussy. That's what the parents complained. On 6th of February this year, this baby had a very low grade fever for the first time,
Please
37.36,
be loud.
and
Please
uh,
be loud.
we had uh, we had the blood test done, and we examined the baby very well. When the baby came to a famous hospital, we'll come to the name and everything later on. Respiratory rate was 45. There was no dyspnea, wheezing, or chest retraction. Nothing important. The CRP, focalci, liver enzymes were a bit raised, and of course, they did a assay of respiratory panel, which we normally do nowadays, and it was negative. It was negative for influenza virus also. There was an indication that this was a viral pneumonia, but nothing came out of the investigations that were done in the hospital at that time. So, imaging patterns, normally a CT scan or a chest X-ray is to be done, is done in these cases, and of course, molecular diagnosis. We'll discuss about them a bit later on. So X-ray was done in this case. It's a 3-month-old baby. Somehow the CT scan was not done because of maybe radiation issues and other issues that was important at that time when this baby presented. So the chest X-ray of this baby was like that, and nothing important except perhaps a bit of mediastinal widening. So this was the X-ray of that 3-month-old baby, mild enlargement of mediastinal shadow, and then of course I will give you the hint. The next slide will give you the hint of what this was. This baby had a contact with a grandmother who was tested corona positive a few weeks back, and uh, then of course the RT-PCR was done. It was positive on 8th of February and finally became negative on 14th and 17th of February. Treatment given was azithromycin orally for 5 days. This was the baby, one of the earliest situations where a very young baby had uh, corona positive viral pneumonia, presented with that in one of the hospitals in Vietnam. This was the National Hospital of Vietnam who had published this case, and it was finally published by Lancet also. So after that, there were a series of almost 36 children in China who had a series of CT scans done on all of them. Uh, so remember that this was the time when we are getting atypical pneumonias, first in China and then in the surrounding countries also. And scientists had already discovered that this was a novel coronavirus, SARS novel coronavirus 2, which was named, and this was creating havoc in different areas with atypical presentations of atypical pneumonia. The virus was found to be very, very close to the bat coronaviruses that were found in near about Wuhan provinces, and there was homology with the bat viruses, but there was not 100% homology. It was assumed that two or three viruses had been combined. They had done a species jump from the bats and finally landed in human beings with the ability to human transmission and was creating havoc. And this virus, like the coronaviruses, other coronaviruses, starts with the respiratory diseases, respiratory symptoms, and that causes the different destruction in the lung epithelium and the alveoli particularly. So this was initially. Now we know that we have cases coming in from UK that has been published, from Illinois where there are very young infants that died, and of course, very our own place, Kalyan, where also a child had died. So this was another series that I have been referring to, 36 children, all admitted in the Zhejiang provinces of the hospitals there after the atypical pneumonia outbreak. And all of these 36 children, they had their CT scan done. This was particularly a CT in a boy, 1 year of 1.5 years. And 4 days after admission, there is a patchy ground glass opacification with the arrowheads of the right upper lobe. You can see the arrow, I have put the arrows there. So there are ground glass opacification. 5 days subsequently, the second picture shows you there is a bit of clearance over there. The appearances become a bit normal. So this is another one. This was also a non-enhanced stage CT done on a 4-year-old boy, again showing the ground glass opacification. So ground glass opacification at that time became an indicator of COVID-19 respiratory infection there. This is another picture showing the same thing in the left lower lobe this time. It's more periphery in nature. The location is more at the periphery. The arrowhead show you the ground glass opacification again, and subsequently all these children, they were treated with antivirals. They were treated with 2 antiviral syrups, lopinavir and lopinavir. They were also given alpha interferon. Subsequently, after these, their appearances are normal, and the state seems a bit better. So, series of CT scans done there gave an initial indication that how the radiology or the CT scan picture of COVID-19 respiratory infection can look like. Subsequently, there has been standardized, and now we have a 4 That's an app. There's an app based on the reporting and scoring. Every lung lobe has been given a score of 0 to 5, and based on the percentage involvement, you can give a score. Max score is 25. So depending on the score, you can say that whether this is a COVID-19 respiratory pneumonia or not. So they have also suggested, the radiological societies have also suggested that, this is from the US Center of Radiology, they have suggested that there should be a language of reporting, which is typical appearance, indeterminate appearance, atypical appearance, and negative condition. For typical appearance, one was the ground glass which we showed there. Another was that the ground glass of rounded morphology, when they also show interlobular lines, that picture is known as crazy paving. So after GGO, you can have a look at a crazy paving, And then also another sign which is very becoming very common now among the radiologists, that's the reverse halo sign or the atoll sign. That is depends on, it shows a small portion of consolidation by a high surrounded by a hyperdense area of halo. That is the reverse halo. So presence of all three of them at different times of imaging that you have been doing will depend on giving a typical appearance of a COVID-19 pneumonia. So this is the lab diagnosis that we had been talking about, and normally we are doing RT-PCR, but the antigen antibody, the fast track tests are also coming into position, and of course some of the states in India now already are doing them. So on the day 5, if day 0 is the day when the baby or child becomes infected, on day 5 there is onset of symptoms, and day 7 we can have an IgM positive, which remains positive till 21 days, day 20, 21. Day 14 the IgG becomes positive. Day 1 to 28 all through it will get RNA, the reverse transcripted RNA positive, and the antigens will be positive also. So RT-PCR is the test where it starts from the very fast till the very last day it will become positive. That's what we think till now, the present state of knowledge. IgM disappears on day 21, and finally on day 28 maybe the other things also disappear. So during the asymptomatic phase or the window phase, only PCR is positive in this phase. PCR, remind you, is also done in two methods. The method that we are doing is a two-step method where you extract the RNA from the sample, which is the either from the throat, that is a throat swab, or a nasopharyngeal swab, or you can do both. Normally, the best specimen would have been from the trachea or the bronchoalveolar lavage. But mind you, we are dealing with a very infectious virus, so that should be done very carefully, or rather, it's recommended that you go for the normal throat swab and the nasopharyngeal swab. Combined two specimens will give you almost the same specificity and sensitivity as that the sample from the bowel will give you. So, PCR, RT-PCR normally takes 7 to 8 hours, where the RNA is extracted in the first step, the complementary DNA is taken up, and that is replicated, and finally two specific areas are located. That's the opening frame 1B zone and part of the DNA, and the other is the end zone. If those are found in more than the threshold level, then this is a positive sample. And if they are give lower level of fluorescence, lower number of fluorescence, then of course it's a negative. Now other like the CRISPR technology is also coming in, which is the almost the RT-PCR, but it can be done on a fast track, and the thermal cycles that are used that might be a bit simpler. So all these steps that we are discussing is very important, because that's what we hear from the audiovisual media, from whatever the newspapers, all the experts. But to understand what they are talking about, we should have a clear idea about the investigations that are done. That bulk width for PCR is the best sample, but not in these cases of COVID-19. But for the other viruses, it's very important, specifically for the mixed virus infection. Like this one was a mixed infection of Boca virus and of course adenovirus. So this was detected by PCR. That's how the graph would look like, and it was a combined Boca virus and adenovirus co-infection, which is very common in children. So it is no longer a question that should we have a molecular lab. The question rather is how far do we want to go, or how far can we go? Now it's time that everywhere we can have respiratory panels, incorporate the RT-PCR, and come up with labs where we can do these things. So these are the two important respiratory panels which is available in our country and are normally done here. One is the BioFire respiratory panel and the Let's Finder Smart panel. So both of them detect almost 22 pathogens. The first one, that is the BioFire one, that one includes Bordetella paraphytosis, which is one of is often important when we are looking for the cause of cough in a prolonged cough in a very young child. And the second one, the Rescue Finder Smart, it includes another very rare one, Legionella pneumonia. So these respiratory panels are in the future, they will be very important to us to understand them and to when to write for us for a respiratory panel to be done and when a respiratory panel report comes in, how to read through. So there are plenty of viruses before the coronaviruses which we had been dealing with because they cause almost 30 to 50% of the community acquired pneumonia, the RSV, the human metapneumovirus, the influenza, parainfluenza, adenovirus, and measles. But remember, they cause infection both in the healthy children and the immunocompromised. In fact, the panel for the chronic disease, underlying chronic disease, the children who have an underlying chronic disease, normally they are more prone to infections by respiratory syncytial virus, that is RSV, and the human parainfluenza virus, which is very common for them. For the healthy children, the commonest of course here also is respiratory syncytial virus, but you should also keep in mind, you should also keep in mind that the mixed infection is very common for healthy children. So let us see, when we are discussing about the imaging patterns, the patterns of the X-rays and the CT scans, it's very important to delineate them from the bacterial ones because that's the way we can reduce the use of antibiotics. And often they are very different from the bacterial ones. But the important thing is that the pathogenesis of the viruses differ. It differs in the different viridae or the families of viruses. And that's why a particular family of virus will cause in a particular type of destruction in the lungs. And that will give a particular type of imaging, which might overlap also sometimes, but it is a definitive aid in diagnosis. I won't say it's not diagnostic, but it's an aid in diagnosis that we should not miss. So starting with the respiratory syncytial virus and the parainfluenza virus, these two viruses, they replicate in the nasopharyngeal epithelium and also goes down to the lower respiratory tract and the lungs. They cause bronchiolitis and sloughing of the epithelial cells of the small airways. And that's why the features of this RSV is an airway-centric pattern in the X-ray that is done. Whenever you do X-ray in a RSV pneumonia, in a child with RSV pneumonia, the airway-centric pattern is very important, and also often what the radiologists they are very fond of names. They say that it's a tree in a bud pattern. That's the opacity they describe is the tree in a bud opacity in cases of RSV particularly. And of course there is a bronchial valve thickening. So now in the CT scan also we have multifocal consolidation and ground glass opacities in all these cases. So the pattern is almost the same in RSV and in HPIV and also in cases of some of the other viruses of that family. So the metapneumovirus, that causes an inflammatory cascade of lung epithelium. And again, the centilobular nodules and the bronchial valve thickening, that's also a airway-centric pattern. So these three viruses give you almost a similar pattern in the X-ray and the CT scan also. This is also a multifocal ground glass opacity pattern in the CT scan also. So remember, these two RSV, human parainfluenza virus, and the metapneumovirus, they have almost a similar pattern in radiology and CT scan imaging. Influenza virus, a very common one, particularly different weather and different climates. In different hemispheres, they have a different times of exposure. Our children, they have different types of exposure there, but it normally diffusely involves the respiratory epithelium. And there is diffuse alveolar damage and consolidation here. So the influenza virus is very common. It gives a very typical picture here. We'll have certain some of the X-rays later on, and we can correlate all these data from at that time. Adenovirus. So this virus is particularly very important here. I'll tell you why. It affects terminal bronchioles. It causes bronchiolitis and necrotizing bronchopneumonia, and often the alveoli are damaged. Adenovirus can cause chronic cough even after the virus has gone away because the alveoli has been disturbed. The any sensitivity there, increase in sensitivity, and the recruitment of the alveoli is very important, and that might take months or weeks. So adenovirus is something which can cause acute infection and a chronic infection also. And the pattern here is also a multifocal consolidation with necrotizing bronchopneumonia. Cytomegalovirus is known for causing interstitial pneumonia and here also as alveolar edema. Herpes simplex, it has a cytopathic effect, destroying all airways, the airways and the alveoli also, and there is a scattered air space pattern of opacity and peribronchial consolidation. Here it's air space which is more damaged here. So classification of viruses we know is just for a bit of knowledge there that single-stranded DNA is the parvovirus and double-stranded DNA, the adenoviruses and the herpes viruses. Single-stranded RNA would definitely with the more common ones, the picornavirus, calci, flavi, the oxomyxo, that is the family of influenza viruses, the paramyxo, that is the para-influenza viruses there, and the RSV, rhabdo, and monia viruses. So this is common whenever we are thinking of RT-PCR, the type of virus it is, whether the DNA or RNA becomes important. So now we'll just go through some of the radiological pictures here. These some of the early pictures that I am showing you are from a tertiary medical college hospital where from the intensive care, all these babies were very sick. Some of them needed ventilation and were put on ventilation for a prolonged period of time. So here you can see that there is bilateral perihilar lower lobe and middle lobe fasciopacities and infiltration. This one has diffuse infiltrate we have been talking about, maybe influenza, and perihilar and lower side. You can see a bilateral perihilar infiltrate, more so in the right pericardial zone and the left lower zone. So remember, these babies were sick and pneumonia was the diagnosis of viral pneumonias because they had bacterial pneumonias had been eliminated in the diagnosis. Full bone ARDS. Full bone ARDS of a child another ARDS features. You can see most part of the lungs is not functioning. This is, of course, the picture is not from the people. This is from another medical college hospital here, but this child was not for the people. He was treated in a normal pediatric ward. The one on the right side will show you diffuse infiltrations. These are all the different X-rays, not of the same person, not of the same child. Okay. So you can just see the first series of X-rays where the most serious pneumonias were dealt with, but these are the common ones that we see they come to the chambers or the OPD. They might look like this. And here, since there is no consolidation, the consolidation features are not there, and we can see the clinical features were pointing to viral pneumonia. So the diagnosis of viral pneumonia was taken up. Another very common X-ray that you see in the OPD, this one, of course, was pretty serious for a long time, but they cleared up with oral medicine. So this was another X-ray, which is the right side is more involved. This is the perihilar region. This one, the right side, of course, it has the opacity is there. Then you can see the opacity, almost groundless opacity, classical. Diffuse perihilar infiltrates are there. So it just to put into our brain that whenever we will see a viral pneumonia or a viral respiratory tract, the X-rays will be looking almost like this, and we have to go for investigation because it's not every time that they will be the child will get well by itself. So those were the X-rays. Thank you for some of my colleagues who had helped with the data and the X-rays. And of course, I think we had a strong refresher of to sensitizing us to viral pneumonias in children. Thank you.
Please check WhatsApp for questions.
The questions, uh, the first question is from Joshi Anand Teketa from Durgapur. Are there any biomarkers to differentiate viral from bacterial pneumonia? Uh, I know you are intensivist, so that's a question where I think, you are very interested, you'll be interested in. See, the NHS had put out a direction about pneumonia in COVID-19 and particularly in children. And they have said that normally the CRP is raised a bit up to 30. There is an increase in procalcitonin, but not significantly. The LDH is raised, D dimer is raised, and that's a bad prognostic indicator, the D dimer. And liver enzymes are often raised. And of course, to differentiate, you have to do RT-PCR to find out the test, or a respiratory panel if you are thinking of. Normally, the other things, whatever I talked about LDH being a bit raised, the liver enzymes a bit raised, the D dimers are increased in D dimers, which is a bad prognostic indicator. These are all, I think, very early stage to differentiate all those things. But I think we should be keeping an open mind while dealing with these investigation reports. Yes, you are right. That BioFire and Recipe Finder till now do not detect COVID-19. Uh, it, you must remember that COVID-19 is something which has been there since January, and this is just the end of March and into the first week of April. So these has not been incorporated in the respiratory panel COVID-19. That's why you have to do an RT-PCR, otherwise the respiratory panel would have solved the problem within a minute. And I think these are the two questions that were there, Shalini.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Just wait for a minute.
okay.